Challenging time for everyone in British Columbia, but especially a challenging time for those who are vulnerable and those who are facing homelessness. This pandemic, coupled with the ongoing overdose crisis, has created significant health concerns for our province's most vulnerable people, those living in encampments, and the professionals and the volunteers who support them in those communities. As you know, on April 25th, we announced our plans to move people from the encampments in Oppenheimer Park in Vancouver and Topaz Park and Pandora Corridor in Victoria. We developed a comprehensive plan to ensure that all those in the tent encampments in Victoria and Vancouver are provided with safe, temporary accommodation. Our service providers on the ground have been taking a compassionate and individualized approach to find the most appropriate housing for campers. This includes wraparound services such as mental health and addictions, access to safe supply, culturally sensitive housing arrangements, and the option for family and friends to remain together wherever possible. These wraparound supports will create lasting and positive change for many individuals fighting hardship, poverty, and addiction. As this work continues, I truly want to thank all of those working with the campers, including frontline staff from BC Housing, from my ministry, and from other parts of government, the outreach workers who are doing everything they can to support people in the transition to housing, those from the community, and the peer support workers, people from the community who are working every day to support people. I also want to thank the hotel owners and associations, as well as the GSL group that have partnered with the province to make this possible. And I want to thank the cities of Vancouver and Victoria for their partnership and their support during this process. This process is a major shift in the way our province addresses homelessness and the issues that surround it. I am encouraged that as of end of day yesterday, over 320 people have moved into safe temporary accommodation in both Vancouver and Victoria. Accommodation where there are supports to meet their needs to protect their health and their safety issues. On April 25th, an order was issued under the Emergency Program Act that required the encampments to be emptied by May the 9th. We have, as of today, offered everyone in Oppenheimer Park a safe place to stay indoors. In Victoria, however, it is now clear that more time is needed to ensure that each person leaving Topaz Park and Pandora Avenue is moved into accommodation that best suits their needs. To support that work and to ensure that we do it right, the province, in consultation with the City of Victoria, has extended the deadline for Pandora and Topaz from May the 9th to May the 20th. I want to be clear that, as in Oppenheimer, no one will be asked to leave these encampments without being offered suitable temporary housing options. We're also developing plans for longer-term permanent housing solutions for people, housing solutions that have ongoing supports. When we return to a new normal after COVID-19, we want to make sure that the new normal does not mean people are forced back to the street and back to homelessness. Our plans build on the 23,000 homes already underway or complete through our 10-year housing plan, and will include strategies to provide the right combination of housing and supports that mitigate the chances of return to homelessness. That work will continue in the weeks and months ahead. Homelessness and affordable housing continue to be concerns throughout British Columbia. People and communities are suffering as a result, and our government has been taking urgent action to provide supportive housing for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness across our province. We've opened more than 2,100 new supportive homes, with a further 900 currently underway, all of this moving towards a goal of 4,900 supportive homes. I'm proud of the significant steps we've taken to house so many vulnerable people. Because this is not an attempt to shuffle people off to where they are simply less visible, but it is an opportunity to provide safe, secure, and sustainable housing for people who need it most, to show them that they are supported and they are valued. Because we believe that once people feel safe and they have access to treatment and basic necessities, they then are in a position to begin to build stronger, more sustainable, happier, and healthier lives for themselves. Thank you, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Minister. And before we take questions, a couple of reminders for the media. Please press *1 to line up for questions. Media will be limited to one question, but time permitting, we will be able to take follow-ups. But for that, you will have to queue up again by pressing *1. Please unmute your phones. You will not be audible till I call out your name. We will begin with Srushti Gangdev, CKNW.
Hi, Minister. Thanks for taking my question. I'm just wondering what kind of work you're doing in terms of putting people in shelters who may not be in those parks. Obviously, the majority of people who are homeless in Vancouver are living outside of Oppenheimer Park. So wondering what kind of projects you're working on for them.
Well, as you'll know, the critical health and safety issues around Oppenheimer and Pandora and Topaz motivated that action and the public safety order that's there. We're continuing to work with in Vancouver around looking at how we address those issues of homelessness. That will be parts of Stage 2 and Stage 3 of this process. For today, we're looking to address the issues in the encampments. I'm looking forward to engaging discussions with the City of Vancouver, with the region, with other jurisdictions as we move forward to look at what are the best options and strategies to reduce the number of homeless people in our communities. It's a very big issue. It's been a big issue for a long time. We know there are thousands and thousands of British Columbians who are living homeless, and it's a piece of work that we are committed to continuing to do, moving forward and to building on.
Thank you. Next, we have Lindsay Kynes, Times columnist. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Minister. Thanks for doing this. I just wondered in Victoria why there might be more delays here. I'm hearing that maybe finding staff for some of these facilities is a challenge. Can you elaborate on what the delays are in Victoria?
Sure. When we were moving forward, you'll know that this housing is largely, it's being operated by nonprofit service providers, organizations that are highly skilled in this and that have good and direct experience in operating this kind of supported housing. We were told by those operators that they needed a little bit more time in order to best prepare those accommodations and prepare their staff to be able to welcome their guests when they come from Pandora and Topaz. It is our desire that we get this right, that we do it right, we do it in a way that engages people one-on-one, that is compassionate, that's considerate of people's needs and their desires. So we were happy to say, take a few more days, we're good with that. I would note that while that's been occurring, there's still been lots of work going on in the encampments with health workers, peer support, BC Housing, workers from my ministry, going in, meeting with people one-on-one, assessing their needs, determining where the best options for them will be to move forward, and making those preparations so that when we start in more earnest tomorrow to start to rehouse people or to house people in Victoria, we'll have done a lot of the preparatory work in terms of the one-on-one engagement before we start.
Mike Howell, Vancouver Courier.
Prime Minister, I just wanted to get a cost of this relocation program and what happens to those people in Oppenheimer today who refuse to leave by 6 p.m. tonight.
Well, on the costs, you'll know that we committed $5 billion was the commitment around the CODEV initiatives. We are drawing the dollars for this from that $5 billion commitment, and we will give an accounting of that when we're complete. But we're working forward. We have a budget, and we're moving forward on those costs as we head forward. We have made offers as of today to everybody in Oppenheimer to rehouse. We're still hopeful that people will take that offer up this afternoon, but we've been very, very clear with people that the park is going to close and that staying there is not an alternative or an option. Again, we're welcome them to take the housing that's been made available to them, but they have been told that they will need to leave the site so that it can be secured by the city and the park board moving forward to restore the park.
Brishti Basu, Victoria Buzz, go ahead, please.
Hi, Minister. Thanks for taking my question. I was just wondering if you could clarify the numbers of people that still need to be offered housing in the Victoria encampments, and how many shelter sites and hotels have been located for this purpose so far.
There are still about 250 people who still need to be housed in the two Victoria sites. We have housing that, as I said, will start opening up new accommodations starting tomorrow there. We're continuing to access housing, and I'm told by BC Housing that they are confident that we will have certainly have more than sufficient housing and shelter spaces to ensure that everybody in Victoria will be made an offer of housing and that housing will be available.
Thank you. We have Lisa Cardasco, CHLY next.
Thank you, Minister. I just want to follow up actually on an announcement that you made in March about the $300 a month boost to people receiving social assistance in BC disability. Have you made any headway on making that extending that eligibility for British Columbians who receive the federal disability?
What we have done, you'll know that we've made the $300 available both to people on income and disability assistance. We have also made it available to the lowest income seniors in British Columbia. About 58,000 seniors who received the provincial supplement also are receiving the $300. And I've made representations to the federal minister and to the federal government about supports for people with disabilities particularly, and certainly we've had discussions around the CPP disability that is a federal program as well, and I'm encouraging the federal government to take action and provide supports for those people who fall under federal jurisdiction.
Rob Buffum, CTV, Vancouver Island. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Minister. Thanks for your time. I just wanted to clarify in relation to Victoria that there are, as we stand here now on Friday afternoon, there are currently not enough spots for people, the remaining, I guess, 250 or so people. There's not quite enough spots for them yet. And I guess a second part of it would be, where do these people go after they've been in the hotels or motels? What's the next step?
I'll reiterate that we're moving forward. We're looking at accessing additional spots, and those discussions are underway now between BC Housing and operators, hotel operators, and other operators to access those spots. We're confident that we will have more than enough spots to ensure that all of the 250 or so people in Victoria are able to be housed moving forward. And as we've said, this is step one. And it's an interim step over the next number of months, this housing. But the expectation and our commitment and the work that we're continuing on is to be able to access permanent housing that can be made available to those folks moving forward. And that could come in the way of acquisitions. It could come in the way of more modular. There's a number of options there. There will be some units that will be available through the current programs, construction programs that are underway. Our commitment is that we're looking to make sure everybody who we remove from Pandora and Topaz and Oppenheimer has an opportunity for permanent housing, and the path forward is through these temporary accommodations.
Mira Baines, CBC. Mira, are you there? Moving on, we'll go to Helene Bordeaux, Radio Canada. We'll take Nick Wells from Canadian Press next.
Hi, Minister. Thanks for taking my question. I'm just curious what your response to advocates, mostly in Vancouver, who say that by housing people in Oppenheimer, you're just kind of helping a more visible problem, you're kind of ignoring a more vulnerable population on the streets. So I'm just kind of curious your response to that.
I've heard that argument. I've spoke to the advocates who've made that case. The situation that we have in Oppenheimer, as it is in Pandora and Topaz, we have a situation where there is a large number of people, a couple of hundred people, housed in a very small area. We weren't able to provide the health and safety supports necessary. Healthcare workers are reluctant to go to the site for personal safety reasons. We have a situation there where we simply were not meeting the needs of people, of some of the most vulnerable people in our community. About 90% of the people in Oppenheimer are identified as having addictions. An even larger number of the people in Oppenheimer are identified as having mental health or brain injury issues. So this is a very vulnerable population. In order to be able to support that population, we have believed for a long time that certainly the best way was to house them in more secure accommodations with wraparound supports. That's the action we're taking. It's a first step. We will be moving forward, working with people in the downtown east side, with service providers and residents and others, to talk about what the path forward is to make life better in the downtown east side, to deal with street life, to address the challenges that COVID-19 has created around closed facilities, around challenges around food, all of those areas. The first challenge was to deal with the question of Oppenheimer, and we're dealing with what we believe is some of the most vulnerable people in the province in desperate need, and we think that's what we've done by addressing this issue, by moving people in a compassionate and collaborative way into new housing.
We'll be able to take a few more questions. The next question is from Alex Rogerson, CFAX 1070.
Hi, Minister. What are some of the other permanent solutions being discussed regarding safe drug supply in the indoor accommodations? And is there a plan to implement addiction-based supports eventually to help get people away from drug use?
Well, what you'll know is that the Minister Darcy, my colleague, the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, has been working very actively on this file. We are moving forward, obviously, with pharmaceutical alternatives for people as identified and supported by the federal government using the BC Centre for Substance Use protocol. There will be mental health and addiction services in all of the accommodation. There will be supports for primary care. There's 24/7 supports in the buildings as well, and we are looking at overdose prevention strategies to be in those facilities as well. So we're very focused, and clearly, if there are people who are looking and ready to look to be able to start to address their addictions and to work on their addictions and looking for support, we'll certainly apply the health services necessary to support them to be able to address their addictions.
Paul James, News 1130. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Minister. Thanks for taking the time. One quick question for you. The New Westminster announcing that the Massey Complex is going to be made available for people through the confines of Fraser Health, which will be in charge of referring people there. Now, this is, Fraser Health is a very big catch basin, obviously. So are we going to see people from other parts of the Fraser Health District being moved into New Westminster, say from, places as far as Mission and beyond? Is that something that's in the cards for these people?
I don't have all the details about the initiative in New Westminster at this time, but Fraser Health will play that role as we have facilities in Vancouver. Among the hotels and facilities in Vancouver, for example, there are facilities that are set aside under the control of Coastal Health, and they're there to support people who are symptomatic or people who need significant isolation. Fraser Health, I'm assuming, will be working closely with the City of New Westminster to support the efforts that are going on there in New Westminster, I'm sure.
Thank you. We have Kelsey Nichols from Global Next. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Minister. Thanks for taking my question. We're hearing activists are preparing to reoccupy Oppenheimer Park. Are you aware of this, and what are you doing to prepare?
Well, as I said, that the park will be closed. It's being fenced. It will be secured. It is our expectation the rehabilitation of the park will move forward. The order does not allow for a reoccupation of the park.
Thank you, Minister. Next question is from Ben Miljor. Go ahead, please.
My question is very similar, but looking a little bit more long-term. People in that community say they have seen encampments cleared out of Oppenheimer Park before, they've seen it restored before, only to have more tent cities move in. What can be done long-term to prevent another tent city from springing up in that location, say, a year from now?
Good question. I've been having discussions with Mayor Stewart. And we will continue to talk about how we ensure that that park remains as a community amenity and meets the needs of people as a community amenity moving forward. I think there have been 4 encampments that I'm aware of over the years in that park at different times. We are working hard with the City of Vancouver. We'll work with the Park Board and others to hopefully ensure that there's not a 5th.
Thank you, and we have time for one last question, and that will be from Mira Baines, CBC. Go ahead, please.
Hi. The question is, if somebody defies the order to move out of Oppenheimer Park, will Vancouver Police move in? We're wondering about enforcement of the order.
Yeah, the order will be officially enforced as of noon tomorrow, and that order directs a number of things to occur, including directing the city and the park board to secure the site, to fence it, and to begin the restoration and cleanup of the site, and to do that work, and that work will commence very quickly. The police also are directed to ensure the safety of the site, and that includes ensuring that all people are removed from the site who are campers there. We think that there might be a half a dozen people, 5 or 6 people who that might affect. We'll see, but it is their direction to do that. In terms of how the police operationalize that, that's their work to work out the operational side of that, and they are working on that.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for questions today. Thank you all for joining us.